In the heart of London, just steps from the Thames, stands a place where the kings and queens are crowned, poets are buried, and whispers of the past cling to every stone. Westminster Abbey isn't just a church, it's over 1,000 years of British history condensed into a single, towering landmark. Beneath its Gothic arches, monarchs have been crowned for centuries, starting with William the Conqueror in 1066. It's where legendary figures from Charles Darwin to Stephen Hawking to even Elizabeth I rest just feet apart, their legacies tangled in the same ancient air. Hi, I'm James, but online I go by Andrade. In this series, I travel through the world's most iconic and mysterious landmarks, sketching them while unraveling their hidden histories, strange rituals, and even the eerie occult whispers that still ripple through their walls. Today, as I sketch Westminster Abbey, we're going beyond the postcard view. We'll uncover how it became a royal stage, a burial ground of giants, and a vault of secrets. From the silent cloisters to the echoing coronation chair, to the shadows where London's ghost stories linger. This isn't just a church, it's where the line between history and legend starts to blur. Long before the soaring Gothic arches and royal processions, the ground beneath Westminster Abbey was already sacred. According to legend, sometime in the early 600s, a fisherman on the River Thames witnessed a vision of St. Peter appearing on Thorny Island, a swampy patch of land where the abbey now stands. Locals believed the site was blessed, and by the mid-7th century, a small Saxon church had been built here by King Cerbert of Essex. But the foundations of the abbey we know today weren't truly laid until Edward the Confessor, one of England's last Anglo-Saxon kings, took a vow to build a grand new church in the Romanesque style as an act of piety. Construction began around 1042 and was completed shortly before Edward's death in 1066. That same year, William the Conqueror would be crowned king here, marking Westminster as the official coronation site for English monarchs from that point on. Over the centuries, Edward's original structure was slowly swallowed by ambition, with Gothic expansions and lavish tombs replacing the simpler Saxon walls. What began as a quiet island church became the spiritual epicenter of a growing empire and the beating heart of British power, death, and ceremony. Westminster Abbey is a masterpiece of English Gothic architecture, with roots in Norman Romanesque from Edward the Confessor's era. However, the structure as we see it today largely took shape during the reign of King Henry III, who began rebuilding the abbey in 1245 to emulate the soaring cathedrals of France. The defining elements of Gothic architecture are on full display here: pointed arches, ribbed vaults, flying buttresses, and a monumental verticality designed to pull the eye and spirit upward. The abbey's nave, the longest of any Gothic church in England, stretches a staggering 530 feet, creating a sense of sacred enormity. The fan vaulting in the Henry VII Chapel is considered one of the most extraordinary achievements of medieval craftsmanship. Its lace-like stone ceiling almost appears to defy gravity. Equally stunning are the stained glass windows, some of which date back to the 13th century, depicting saints, monarchs, and biblical scenes in luminous color. The exterior is marked by its dual west towers, completed in 18th century by Nicholas Hawksmoor, which blend subtlety into the Gothic style despite their later date. The north entrance, once used exclusively by monarchs, remains one of the most detailed facades, adorned with over 20 statues of martyrs from around the world. Westminster Abbey isn't just a church, it's a tapestry of British identity. Every stone, column, and statue is woven with power, piety, and political legacy, revealing centuries of artistic and architectural evolution beneath its solemn grandeur. Westminster Abbey isn't just a church, it's the sacred engine of British monarchy and empire. Since 1066, every English and later British monarch, except Edward V and Edward VIII, have been crowned here, beginning with William the Conqueror, who seized the throne after the Battle of Hastings. This act wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. By choosing Edward the Confessor's Abbey as the coronation site, William aligned himself with a saintly Anglo-Saxon king, claiming continuity and legitimacy in the eyes of the English people. At the heart of this tradition lies the coronation chair, also known as King Edward's Chair, built in 1296 by order of Edward I. Crafted from oak, it has held nearly every British monarch during the anointing, oath, and crowning. For centuries, the chair housed the Stone of Scone, a Scottish relic of immense symbolic power seized by Edward I during his conquest of Scotland. Though the stone was returned to Scotland in 1996, it is still temporarily brought back to Westminster for each coronation, a reminder of the fraught unity between the nations of the UK. The coronation ritual itself has remained surprisingly consistent for nearly a millennium. It's a deeply religious ceremony rooted in the Old Testament coronation of Solomon, with anointing oil, oaths before God, and the monarch receiving regalia like the orb and scepter. When Queen Elizabeth II was crowned in 1953, the ceremony was broadcast to over 27 million Britons, cementing Westminster Abbey's spiritual and cultural centrality in the modern age. But coronations are just part of the Abbey's political function. Over centuries, it has served as a royal mausoleum, a propaganda tool, and a stage for statecraft. Monarchs were buried here deliberately, positioning themselves near saints and spiritual power. Henry III, for instance, not only rebuilt the abbey in Gothic glory, but demanded to be buried near the shrine of Edward the Confessor, signaling his divine right to rule. The abbey also houses tombs and effigies of monarchs like Elizabeth I, Mary I, Mary Queen of Scots, and Henry V, not placed at random, but orchestrated to tell a visual story of dynastic strength, divine favor, and national legacy. Through war, reformation, and empire, Westminster Abbey has remained the monarchy's beating heart, a place where crowns are given, lineages are asserted, and British identity is shaped not just by power, but by the profound illusion of divine destiny. Westminster Abbey is a church of the dead, a monumental graveyard dressed in Gothic stone, with over 3,300 souls buried or commemorated within its walls and cloisters. The abbey holds more collective memory than perhaps any other building in Britain. But these are no ordinary tombs. These are the final resting places of monarchs, mathematicians, poets, scientists, warriors, philosophers, and revolutionaries, sometimes side by side, sometimes in symbolic opposition. At the literal and metaphorical heart of the abbey lies the tomb of the unknown warrior. Interred in 1920, this nameless World War I soldier brought from the battlefields of France rests in soil from the front lines. Beneath a slab of black Belgian marble, no one may walk upon it. This tomb became the template for similar memorials around the world, from the Arc de Triomphe to Arlington Cemetery. It remains one of the most emotionally charged spaces in the entire building, a reminder that heroism is not reserved for kings. Move eastward and you enter Poets' Corner, one of the most mythic parts of the abbey. Here lie the bones and busts of Britain's literary giants. Geoffrey Chaucer, buried here in 1400 not for his poetry, but for his role as clerk of works. Charles Dickens, buried secretly at night to avoid public chaos. Rudyard Kipling, Thomas Hardy, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, even William Shakespeare, buried in Stratford, is memorialized here with a statue, as if London refused to let go of its greatest bard. But it's not just poets. The abbey honors Stephen Hawking, whose ashes were buried in 2018 near Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, creating a kind of scientific sanctum within a religious temple. This deliberate placement sparked discussion. Was it hearsay to place a devout Christian like Newton beside an agnostic like Darwin and an atheist like Hawking? Or was it a poetic gesture, an eternal debate carved into stone? There are also quieter corners filled with fascinating contradictions. The South Cloister holds the grave of Ben Jonson, buried upright due to space constraints. The inscription simply reads, "O rare Ben Jonson." The tomb of Elizabeth Gaskell lies near political radicals and naval heroes. Statues of abolitionists, bishops, and imperial administrators share space awkwardly, silently debating history among themselves. Every burial in the abbey is both a memorial and a message. It says, this person mattered, this life meant something. And taken as a whole, these burials form a narrative of British power, culture, contradiction, and myth-making, layered like sediment beneath every step you take inside. At first glance, Westminster Abbey appears as a grand Gothic structure, a textbook cathedral, all ribbed vaults and pointed arches. But beneath that visible elegance lies an invisible order, a complex system of geometry, symbolism, and encoded ratios that speak to something older and deeper. Scholars have long noted that the Abbey is not simply built, but it is designed as a cosmic diagram, a sacred map of the universe rendered in stone. Its cruciform layout, shaped like a cross, aligns with the traditional Christian symbolism, but the precision of its orientation and proportions has led researchers to believe it also is influenced by ancient sacred geometry. The east-west axis aligns most perfectly with the rising sun on St. Edward the Confessor's feast day, a detail too exact to be coincidence. The octagonal chapter house, one of the oldest parts of the abbey, is often overlooked by tourists, but it may hold the key to understanding the abbey's esoteric architecture. With its eightfold symmetry, it mirrors the geometry of a mandala or a compass rose. Medieval masons used this octagon as a base from which to design more complex structures, drawing on Masonic traditions passed down through guilds. In this space, architecture wasn't just practical, it was ritualistic. There are also hidden measurements embedded throughout the abbey that suggest a mathematical language at play. For example, many structural proportions correspond to ratios found in music, octaves, fifths, and fourths. The nave's height to width ratio is said to match the harmonic resonance of a human voice in chant. Some theorists argue this creates a natural resonance chamber, a sacred soundscape that makes Gregorian chant physically felt, not just heard. More intriguing still is the Abbey's rumored connection to Knights Templar and Freemasonic traditions. While not officially a Templar site, the presence of symbolic motifs, double-headed eagles, hidden pentagrams, six-petaled rosettes, and labyrinthine tiling patterns has fed the belief that certain builders were secretly embedding messages for those who could read them. The geometric floor designs resemble those found in cathedrals across France and Germany tied to Templar legends. The Cosmati pavement, a dazzling mosaic floor before the high altar laid in 1268, is perhaps the most overt esoteric clue. Created by Italian craftsmen using ancient Roman techniques, the floor contains astrological and cosmological inscriptions, including a Latin phrase predicting the end of the world in the year 19,683. It's said to represent the order of the cosmos, placing the Abbey at the center of a divine universe. Modern mystics call it Britain's true zero point. Even the towers completed by architect Nicholas Hawksmoor have raised eyebrows. Hawksmoor was deeply interested in sacred geometry and numerology, and some claim his vision of Gothic, angular, imposing, and filled with encoded ratios was meant to channel energy upward, part of a now lost architectural tradition aimed at creating thin places between earthly and divine. So while Westminster Abbey serves as a house of worship and burial, it may also be something more, a ritual device, a mathematical portal, or an alchemical machine built in stone. Not merely a cathedral, but a coded book. Westminster Abbey isn't just a historic church, it's a magnet for paranormal energy, occult symbolism, and esoteric secrets that the public barely notices, but the initiated have studied for centuries. According to occult researchers, the Abbey's very location was chosen with ancient power lines in mind, not political ones. But geomantic ley lines, the invisible veins of earth energy that connect Stonehenge, Glastonbury, and the pyramids of Egypt. These intersect directly under the Abbey's Cosmati pavement, a mosaic some occultists believe is a stargate. Its design, they say, encodes the astronomical calendar of the Sumerians and hints at the Anunnaki's return. Yes, those same sky gods whispered about in fringe archaeology. The Cosmati tales themselves hold a darker mystery. Beneath the Latin inscriptions lies a phrase said to be a ritual warning, which has been partially translated by Rosicrucian circles to say, "Tread carefully, for this place is the eye of God." Conspiracy theorists argue this floor wasn't meant to reflect the heavens, but to trap something beneath. The Abbey is also teeming with ghosts, and not just the royal kind. Over the years, monks have reported sightings of hooded, faceless figure near the tomb of Elizabeth I. Some say it's the shade of John Dee, the Queen's personal alchemist and sorcerer, returning to guard secrets he buried beneath the Abbey during the height of his magical work. These Enochian symbols, the language of angels, have been subtly etched into areas of the chapter house, visible only under ultraviolet light. Perhaps the most disturbing claim comes from a 17th century grimoire uncovered in a private collection known only as the Libellus Mortis Abbatiae, the Little Book of Abbey Death. The book refers to an underground sealed chamber beneath the high altar, supposedly containing an object wrapped in linen and wax that shines with a light not of this world. Whispers from Templar descendants suggest it may be one of the lost stones of foundation, an object from Solomon's temple said to resonate with divine frequency. Paranormal investigators have picked up unexplained EMF spikes near Poets' Corner and the North Transept, areas with no modern wiring. One team in 2004 claimed to record a voice speaking Latin backwards, repeating the name Malekel, a fallen angel tied to forgotten apocryphal texts. Then there's the Abbey's alignment with lunar cycles. Historians dismissed it as a coincidence until drone scans revealed certain stained glass reflections only appear during full moons of the spring equinox, a phenomenon known in ancient Druidic circles as a veil light. What this light reveals, no one's certain, but some believe it may unlock an encoded pathway beneath the altar. Lastly, one unsettling pattern keeps surfacing in fringe research. Every monarch crowned in the Abbey has faced a significant personal or national downfall within 7 years. Some attribute this to the Abbey's coronation curse, the belief that taking power atop the Cosmati pavement activates a sacred vow that cannot be broken. If betrayed, it consumes the oathbreaker from within. Westminster Abbey, in this view, is not just a church or historical landmark, it is a ritual site, a psychic battery, and a sealed vault of ancient knowledge, still very much awake beneath the floorboards. For over 1,000 years, Westminster Abbey has stood not just as the heart of London, but as the silent witness to an empire's rise, a kingdom's transformation, and a nation's soul. It's seen coronations and funerals, secrets buried with monarchs, and prayers whispered beneath Gothic vaults. From the ghost-filled Poets' Corner to the cosmic design of the Cosmati pavement to the whispered rituals behind the high altar, the Abbey pulses with a strange, timeless energy. Sketching it, you realize why it endures. It's not just a church, it's a stage where history never stops performing, where death speaks, shadows linger, and stone remembers. If you want to join me as we uncover more of the world's greatest cathedrals and landmarks, bringing them to life on paper while unraveling their history, myths, and stranger secrets, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next sketch and story episode. Turn on the bell so YouTube actually lets you know when I'm live or uploaded. Like this video so more explorers, artists, and history lovers can discover it. And tell me in the comments, would you walk the Abbey's cloisters alone at midnight, past the tombs of kings and the whispers of poets? Or would you rather not know what's still listening? Either way, we've got more cathedrals and mysteries ahead. and I'll be here brush in hand, bringing them to life with you.